Hey parents and coaches, are your kids using the right glove? The most important skill for youth athletes to learn is how to play proper catch. The problem is, most youth gloves are made with bad leather and are too big for small hands. They actually make it harder to play catch. That's why former Major League Baseball shortstop Kevin Smith created Cali gloves. Cali gloves are crafted from 100% Japanese kip leather and are the perfect size for kids. All Cali gloves come with palm slits, finger loops, and elastic wrist lacing that encourage proper hand placement, the right closing patterns, and give kids more confidence to go make plays. Cali gloves even allow parents to break in the glove without stretching out the fit. It's the glove Kevin wishes he had growing up, and the glove all his teammates want for their kids. Visit caligloves.com to learn more and help your kids play better catch. That's Cali Gloves, K-A-L-I gloves.com.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Dugout Dish Podcast. I'm Andy Kirikides, joined by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Keith Glasser. How we doing?
Great. How are you?
Got an awesome guest on, as usual. We're at the midweek point, so those of you who listen, you know exactly who's on the pod today, Mr. Jonathan Grasset.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
I didn't even notice we got the background rolling again.
Got it back.
Special. We're close to the halfway point here. And, we did our preseason pod. I think we got a couple things right. We got a couple things that probably aren't looking so good. But I think we got some good talking points here today. So we're gonna cover a couple things. First thing, we'll do a little roundtable here of talk to me a little bit about some surprises, some teams that have maybe overperformed expectations, perhaps. Maybe that's the best way to put it. What do we got here, Mr. Grasset? We'll start with the guest first.
Yeah, I got two big ones. One I'll kind of put on the second here, but my first one's Central Florida. I think they've done a phenomenal job. They were kind of trending in this direction the last few years. New staff, they've done a really good job. Their pitching staff this year is ridiculous. Those first three are going to be a problem. I don't know if they're going to be able to get into a spot where they can even consider, be in consideration for hosting, but they're going to be a problem as a 2 seed, especially in a building that, is not, like a super offensive building. I think they're going to be an absolute problem as a 2 or 3 seed, even if they kind of have a hiccup here. But kind of what they've done so far, in the Big 12, they're in first in the Big 12 right now. Those first three are going to be an issue for somebody, as we get further down the line here. And then my second one, I think is a slam dunk. They were in the top 25 this week. We've kind of had them on our radar, in our group chat, for the last 2 weeks, I would say, really, maybe 3 weeks. But what that staff has done up in Boston College is ridiculous. They're, I think they're technically in second place in the ACC. They're 8-3, or 8-4, I believe they are, but to have 8 wins through your first 12, the first 2 have to be on the road because that's just the way they operate. They only had a home game, I think 2 weeks ago, was their first home game of the year. It was a midweek. So what they've done has been, phenomenal. They did grab 2 from Virginia this past weekend. They had a lead through, I think it was through 6 or 7 on Sunday too, to go and sweep them. That would have been incredible, for them to even be in that position was super impressive. If you're just counting wins, right, and you're figuring out, how are you going to get in, and not even looking at seeding, but just who's going to get in from that league. They're basically halfway there. Last year Notre Dame had 14 wins, they did not get in. So if you just say, hey, 15 or 16 from the ACC gets you in, they're at the halfway point. They're halfway home and they have 18 to go. They put themselves in a really, really, really good spot. Again, they're not going to get in, I don't think, a spot to host or anything like that. But they're going to be a problem as a 2 seed. Ryan Forrest, their pitching coach, has done a phenomenal job with the development of that staff. They're playing the way that Todd wants to play. They're small ball and, people, they're running. they're doing a lot of really, really, really good things. And, I think I would say in terms of most impressive, Division I teams, I think you gotta put them up there.
Yeah, absolutely. UCF's a good call out because I think that they've flown under the radar for a little while, but I think this year, they to your point, they could be a problem. Coach Glass, what do you got?
I think one of my surprise. I guess I don't know if it would be a surprise if you follow college baseball, but I think that, and I think they've hit a little bit of a lull in their last 10, but I thought the start that Cincinnati got off to this year was rather impressive. They took a series with Jacksonville State, who was a regional team last year. They beat Auburn, and I think they're 4-5, I believe, or they're 5, maybe close to 500 in the Big 12. But man, can they play? They are a very, very well coached baseball team. I feel like they've kind of been on the cusp the last couple of years. And this year it looks like they've, in the handful of games that as my video disappears, the handful of games that I've watched, I've probably watched 7 or 8 of their games. Like they play tough, they play hard, they play the right way. They can pitch it, they can play defense. Their offense is pretty dynamic. So I think that, I don't necessarily know, like I said, if you follow college baseball, if it's a huge surprise, but I think they got 20 wins already, 21-10. They got a pretty good RPI. So I thought that, it was worth noting that the Cincinnati Fighting Bearcats are off to a pretty good start to the 2026 season.
You got to mention Quentin Coates then, right? I mean,
that was exactly
got 20 pumps.
Oh, yeah. Like, do you imagine having 20 home runs 30 games into the year?
It wasn't as of yesterday was not April, and he had 20 pumps.
It's not even like you're 30 games in, you have 20 bolts.
It's not even a bunch of pole side stuff either.
No.
It's like it's pole to pole. Like the one he hit last night was, that's right center. Just absolutely. What's his name? Chris Burke uses an adjective to describe balls being hit as compressed. And I just love it. Like that kid compresses baseballs. It's just a different type of thump. He's a highlight. He's a highlight waiting to happen. Like you're just waiting. You're waiting for a ball to get hit 115 miles an hour.
And if you're not
thank you for bringing that up, as it slipped my mind. But yes.
Yeah, if you're not totally familiar with home runs, 20 home runs in a Division I regular season, full thing, all the way to Memorial Day is a very good season. Just to give everybody kind of a baseline here. If you're listening and you're not 100, 20 pumps is a good year. It's a very, very good year. And this dude's got it before we hit April 1st here.
Yeah, it's next level power. He's a sophomore, so. Yeah, I guess we'll see how all that plays out. Shout out Kyle Petteruto, because wherever that dude goes, they smash baseballs.
They do.
Whether it's Bryant, whether it's Rutgers, he's at Cincinnati now. Wherever he goes, they smash baseballs. Period. So, I got a couple. BC was on my list for all the reasons that you mentioned, Jonathan. So I won't kill that horse. I think there's a couple blue bloods that one is exceptional right now that hasn't been exceptional in a long time. But if you follow college baseball history, they have the most national championships ever, USC. And they're back. That team's for real. We got a hell of a matchup coming this weekend between them and UCLA. But they can just flat out pitch. They play really good, clean, quality West Coast baseball. Obviously, the coaching change over there has paid huge dividends for them, and they've kind of been building towards this, but they look like they could be a problem. And then the other one who was a blue blood that is good to see them back, at least being really competitive. And they have the second leading home run hitter in the country on their team is Arizona State. I think it's cool when you have these historically relevant programs that had been down a little bit in recent years and maybe underperformed the historical expectations to see them kind of back up. Arizona State's top 25 in RPI right now. They got Landon Harrison, who's got 17 jacks. Super sweet looking left-handed swing. And then the other one that jumped out to me is at least for the first half of the season, and we'll see how they handle the back half because their schedule in the ACC is going to be a gauntlet. But Pitt's been really impressive. They got a couple really young freshmen that are very, very impactful, and they started off hot offensively and have seemingly stayed hot, and they're going to cause some problems in the ACC right now. And I think that the ACC for me is just an interesting conversation, and I think we'll get into later. There's some teams that historically haven't been in the upper half of that conference that look like they belong in the upper half of that conference this year. So there's a little bit of a changing of the tide, which I think is a good segue into disappointments. Who do we got here for disappointments here, Coach Glass?
Disappointments? I think 2 and 1. I'll keep our feelings to ourselves. 1, I think Wake Forest has been. It was one of my picks to go to Omaha. I know they're banged up. I know that they had some injuries before the season started. They were hoping to keep their head above water to get through March, which we've gotten through, but it hasn't been a great start for the Demon Deacons. Morningstar hasn't had some of the starts that you'd expect out of a guy who has the ability that he has. There's a lot of talent on that roster, especially from the arm standpoint. I mean, last night they got shut out 1-0 at High Point, and make no bones about it, High Point's good. But that's probably not something that should be happening to an ACC team midweek. So I think that's probably one. The other one, and I don't really know. I don't know if it's. I think it's a disappointment because it is who they are, but Clemson has not been good this year. Why they got swept at Notre Dame? They lost the series to Miami. I think their only series win, realistically, I think has been against South Carolina, who, if you follow college baseball, that was a wild Twitter follow for a good month. But that from what Clemson is known for and how good they should be and what they have from a facility standpoint and a resource standpoint, the way that they're playing right now is not good. The positive for a lot of these teams when we hit the mid-year point, I should say, is that you have the back half of the year to kind of figure it out. But it's inching closer and closer to you're going to have to win a lot of games if you're going to be playing postseason baseball. If you're a Clemson Tiger fan. Their defense hasn't been great. Their offense hasn't scored a lot of runs. It seems like they can't put it all together. But I think from a preseason standpoint, from where they were and what people expected out of that ball club to where they are now is a pretty far drop off from what people thought at the front part of this year.
Yeah. I mean, Jonathan, I think you're probably going to have some similar sentiments.
Yeah. I mean, Clemson's got to be, I find it hard pressed to even find somebody that would, that would be, I guess, second, in terms of major disappointments like that has not been hit by the injury bug. Clemson's been, they've just been a huge disappointment. My other one's TCU. I know all three of us had them going to Omaha. It's been super pedestrian. They are banged up, so you can put them in a little bit of a different category. I think similar to Wake, where they haven't been horrible, but just not quite what we're used to. And then the reality is not what we're used to when Schloss was there. That's just the reality. The post Schloss era, Sarloos has had some success early on, but he's going to have to kind of wear some of this blame at this point now, because when you look at it, it really hasn't gone great since Schloss left to go to Texas A&M. And, this was a year, I think, that a lot of people had them back in the mix, back to, that era where they were, going to Omaha, I think it was 4 straight years, that was the type of team they had. And that's just not been the case. A couple of, a couple other smaller ones. I mean, I think, Miami, but you could also argue, right, that Miami was probably in a pretty similar spot 365 days ago. And they ended up a win away from Omaha. So, it is early, right? Like, and obviously, that's the biggest thing about the disappointments and even the surprises, right? Like we're working at half a body of work here. And when you get going and, you have the month of April to get going and, most of May, maybe some teams that have kind of just floated around that 500 mark in conference or, lost some games that we're a little bit more uncharacteristic of them. You listen, you got 2 months to really, to get this thing going again, 6, really probably closer to 8 weeks. So, who knows, with some of those, Miami, NC State could be probably thrown into that category. They've had some bad losses. I mean, lost to Lafayette, lost to Princeton, swept, at home, I'm sorry, on the road against Georgia Tech this weekend. So, but again, got a lot of time to kind of get the, right the ship. I think Clemson's a slam dunk. And then I would kind of put those other guys in, kind of a step below that category.
Yeah, Clemson's got some serious work to do. I think to your point, like Miami, Louisville, TCU, like they still got it in front of them. Like they can still get in the mix. But yeah, just not quite what you would expect. The other one, because I had Clemson, I had TCU. I don't even think we need to talk about South Carolina. Like it's not a disappointment to me. I think it kind of is what it is. Maybe a little surprised it happened so quick with Maneri getting pushed out halfway through the year. But I mean, that's been a tough go of it for a couple of years now. And, I think kind of the writing was on the wall there. But the other team for me, just because of how much they returned specifically on the mound and just how dynamic their offense can be, I feel like Louisville is either they've been disappointing, but they're still scary. But you're getting to the point where you question, like, do you have it in you to turn it around? Like, can you get hot? Because, you're 4-5 in conference. They're still well on the path to become a tournament team, but you have another rough weekend and you're 5-7, and then now you're starting to get to that point where you're looking at like you got to count some wins. And it's like, all right, well, we're 5-7 through 12. Well, we probably need to win 10 more games. It gets tough. And I mean, with the amount of innings they returned, I just thought they would be better on the mound that they have. And it seems like it's been really, really, really up and down, and the offense hasn't been able to kind of cover it. So I'll be really interested to see what Louisville does here in the back half of the season, and Wake to the same extent, because they got a ton of arm talent. Obviously, Morningstar's been disappointing. I'm sure it's not anywhere near where how he wanted it to go, and he's seemingly on the mend from a back injury. But those couple of those schools, and like I guess that kind of gets to where some of the blue bloods in the ACC they're not in the top half of that conference like we would expect them to be. And you're starting to see Notre Dame looks like they got a chance to be dangerous, coming off of a tough week against North Carolina. But they look like they're going to be a problem. They got a legit Friday night guy, and that offense is dangerous. Pitt's better than they've been in a while. Boston College is a problem. Georgia Tech has firmly solidified themselves as one of the bigger threats in college baseball. And, you look at it in a vacuum in this small window of time, and it's like, oh, well, they were a regional team last year, but they weren't as good as they had been historically 4 or 5 years prior to this. But they're back, and that's a problem for the rest of the ACC. So it's an interesting conference to follow right now, because I think that middle pack, there's a lot to be sorted out. Any schools that you're not necessarily surprised by, but kind of impressed with up to this point?
Jacksonville State. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jonathan.
You go. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
I think they only have 5 or 6 losses right now. I know they don't have the best RPI in that conference because Missouri State just beat Arkansas, and as in Missouri State is good. But Jacksonville State's 24-6. They're 9-0 in Conference USA, which is not a pushover conference to be 9-0 in. I know they were a regional team last year. They weren't the best team in the conference last year, but seemingly they have the pieces this year to be pretty good at the midway point as we've gotten through 3 weeks of conference play there. So, I'm not surprised, but also impressed with what it is that, that Jacksonville State team has been able to kind of put together.
Conference USA's got 4 teams inside the top 50 RPI right now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is not Dallas Baptist, who has, for the most part, been the best team in that conference for, a decent window now. For me, Jacksonville State was on my list. I think Missouri State, if you haven't watched them play offense, you need to find a way to watch them because they bang.
It is electric.
They're freaking physical. The kids get good swings off. Like that game against Arkansas last night was like one of the best watches you could have. It was just talent all over the field. Bolts playing hard, competing. The atmosphere was electric. And for those of you who've never watched Missouri State, their facility and their setup is so good. I got Cal Baptist as one. They're 24-5. And they're 3-0 against quad one. Right? The RPI is like 85 right now. But another team, they can really hit. And they got some serious arm talent to go with it. But I've been impressed with them from what I've watched. And then the other team that might not be super obvious, I'm going to say I'm incredibly impressed with Coastal and what Kevin Schnall and his staff has done. Because we talked about TCU earlier, right? And they're like a little bit banged up. Well, Coastal lost, one of the top 5 right-handed pitchers in the country pretty much for the whole, 6 or 8 weeks. Rumor is he might be back in the next couple of weeks. But you're talking like a 6-week stretch where you lose your Friday guy where there's nobody you play on a Friday who has a better starter than him. And you lose your best bullpen guy. And they just haven't missed a beat. They haven't missed a beat. So kudos to that staff, developing guys. They're throwing young guys who are stepping in and getting huge outs. Been super impressed with what they've been doing. I don't think it should go overlooked.
Yeah, you stole that one from me. I had Coastal too. I think it's hard to say you're impressed with the reigning national runner-up. But what they've gone through injury-wise is wild. I mean, they're 21-7. They're 9-0 in the Sun Belt. Like, that's incredible. The depth that they have for them to be 21-7. I mean, you could look at their depth and be like, you gotta like have to punt on Tuesday and Wednesday. And they haven't even missed a beat on the midweek. They've been fine. I mean, and it's not that they're winning 21-19 on Tuesday and Wednesday. They've won 2-1. They've won 5-0. Like, they've won all different kinds of ways. So I think, again, tough to say when you're the national runner-up to be impressed by them. But I think, like you said, Andy, you hit the nail right on top of the head with that one. The one that I think is really impressive, and I'm going to stay in the Sun Belt here, and they've been kind of a doormat in that league for a long time. They probably have the worst facilities in that league. My guess is I don't know the operating budget, but it's got to be close towards the bottom of that league. But ULM, they're 6-3 in the Sun Belt. They had a huge win last night where they smoked LA Tech, and I can guarantee you LA Tech's probably got double the operating budget that they do. I think they played them in 7 innings. They run ruled them, but just super impressed with their ability to what that staff has done. It's a new staff there with Coach Pemberton in charge. Like, they've done a great job. And again, that school, not only the baseball program, that school in general has been the laughing stock of that league and a doormat in that league for well over a decade. So to shout out to them. for the job that they've done thus far. And the other one, I think that's really impressive to me was what they've done at Georgia Tech. And I know it's tough, when you say, well, Jonathan, you had him, in Omaha, 6 weeks ago or whatever. But, one of the things I said then, and I still stand by it, is I still think I hope that they go through a little bit of a rough patch just to kind of get their bearings straight. But they haven't really missed a beat. I mean, they had a little bit of a hiccup. They lost to Auburn on a midweek a couple weeks ago, but like they just, that offense is so legit. Coach Ramsey's done such a good job with that team. They've been basically 3, 4, 2, as high as 2, in the country the whole way, and they haven't budged off of that, and they really haven't had to. So I've been super impressed with them as well. So those would be my 3 that I think kind of exceeded, a little bit, whatever they were handed, especially with the Coastal thing, the hand they were dealt. All 3 of them have done a really nice job.
If you're the parent of a high school baseball player with college aspirations, you already know the recruiting process can feel overwhelming. Endless showcases, nonstop emails, and big promises with very little clarity. That's why we recommend Diamond College Showcase Camps, the nation's premier academic baseball showcase. At Diamond College Showcases, every college coach in attendance is there with a purpose: to coach, instruct, evaluate, and recruit. Every player is seen, every player is engaged, and every family leaves with a clear understanding of where they truly stand. This is not a mass camp. College coaches run the drills, evaluate every athlete, and provide honest professional feedback that you can trust. Diamond College Showcase Camps are built for serious student athletes who value both baseball and academics. If you're looking for transparency, clarity, and a recruiting experience that respects your time and your player's future, Diamond College Showcase is the place to be. To learn more, visit diamondcollegeshowcase.com. I'd be remiss, Andy, and I jumped the gun, so I apologize. I panicked and got off first. But I think Tarleton State, we had Coach Fuller Smith on. They're 20-8 right now. They did beat Texas. They lost 3-1 to Arkansas. They're 2-1 against Quad 1 teams. I think that they've done a great job transitioning from Division II up in Division I, where they finally have an opportunity to be able to go potentially play in the postseason. They were pretty good last year, but I wouldn't necessarily say. Texas is the real deal. Even though I didn't have them going to Omaha, I can admit that. But they beat a midweek, so I thought that it would be remiss not to mention that as a team that I think is, flies under the radar a little bit.
No, that's a great call out. And the interview we had with him was awesome. So if you haven't listened to Fuller, go ahead and make sure you do that, because great conversation with him. Speaking of Texas, let's talk a little bit about the Blue Bloods, because it's kind of been chalk at the top right now. Like the 3 teams that I think for the most part we all kind of had Texas, UCLA, and Mississippi State in some order. Like it's kind of held true. Like they seem to kind of be in their own class, with Georgia Tech probably sneaking in as that 4th team. But those teams for me have just been dominant. I mean, it's like UCLA takes a break during the midweek and decides that they only want to win by like a run or 2, and then they just pound people on the weekends. Like it's kind of a joke at this point what they've been doing. Like I don't know. I don't know if anybody can catch them. We'll see what happens this weekend with USC, but I actually worry with UCLA, are they going to go such a long period of time without really being tested, that could actually be a problem for them in the tournament when they get there. But I don't know if they have a weakness. Texas certainly doesn't look like there's a whole ton to poke holes in there, and Mississippi State's a problem. Like they're like 13 arms deep. They got a lefty throwing 102 who gets sparse innings midweek as they're trying to just continue to develop him. That's just the type of talent they're running out there. It's pretty wild to watch.
And we'll see this weekend. USC. I mean, USC is leading the country in ERA.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good matchup. That's
You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
they've been smashing people on the weekends. And I know USC gave up some runs last weekend at Maryland. They dropped a game. It's a tough Big Ten across the country matchup. But
in a tough park to pitch in too.
it's a very tough park to pitch in. But like, I mean, they're still pitching at a 2.6 as a team. I mean, like, and you're going to go in and face UCLA. Like, I'm very interested to see what that series looks like. Like, is it going to be a 10, 11, 11, 10 games? Is it going to be 3-1 games? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very interested to see because both of them are really, really good. Like, it's interesting. I mean, Texas is unbelievable. Mississippi State's really good. At Georgia Tech, I think is, probably, they've been smashing baseballs all year long. Florida, I don't know what to make of. Like, and it sounds crazy to say when you look at their overall record because what are they, 23?
Weirdest team in the country. They're the
right?
weirdest team in the country.
Like you look at it and it's like you're 23-7 or whatever it is. Like, but at the same time, like you lose the series at home to High Point, and then I don't know what to make of you. You roll into Fayetteville and sweep Arkansas this past weekend. Like what are we doing? And then I think they lost last night, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, they lost to Jackson.
Yeah. Like, and then it's just like this weird, I don't know what to make of them. Like, I think they're good. I know they're good, but like you have these weird losses that a really good team that just swept Arkansas shouldn't have. Like, you don't really have trap games in baseball. Like, you know what I mean? Especially with weekends. Like, so I don't know what to make of Florida. It's I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm losing my mind talking about it, but at the same time, like it's a weird thing to watch this year. Like, because we've known, like, there's been years where like they don't deserve to be in the postseason, and then they make it to Omaha, and then it's like, wow, we think that they should be there, and then they don't make it to Omaha, and then now it's like, man, they're really good, and then but like you drop weird games. I just don't know what to make of it.
And they got like, in Alabama is just might be the hottest team in the country right now. Like when you're looking at like what they've done,
Yeah.
They swept Florida, they swept Auburn, but Alabama took them. They beat their ass. It wasn't even like 6-0, 8-4, 14-7. Like, adios, goodbye, head back to Gainesville. Like, get out of Tuscaloosa. We just pounded you. And then Florida comes back and they've got 2 wins against Florida State, and then they sweep Arkansas. Like, and then drop a 4-3 game at Jacksonville. I don't know.
And they took 2 from Miami too.
Yeah.
You took 2 from Miami, 2 from Florida State.
And those 2 was a sweep too, Keith. That was a sweep because they didn't play on
because
Sunday.
they didn't play on Sunday.
Yeah, they're an interesting one. Like, I watched the Peterson kid throw against Miami, and like, if that kid's dialed in, like, good luck. Like, you might get no hit. Like, his stuff's as good as anybody in the country. Like, it's absolutely electric. But he's a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a coin toss, but like, he has some outings where you watch him and you're like, nobody with that type of stuff should have those type of lines. But
honestly, I'll be honest. I think he is like a perfect microcosm for what they are.
Yeah.
This year, right? Like, you're like, yo, you're one of the best teams in the country. Oh wait, no, like you're just gonna get pounded at Alabama 3 times. You lose 2 or 3 at home to High Point, almost get swept. Like, yeah, but then you sweep Florida State on the midweek. So far they swept Florida State on the midweek. Go up to Arkansas and sweep Arkansas. Like what are we doing? Like, we're all over the place here.
And I hate to play this game when we talk about like actually like from a coaching perspective, but like those South Carolina games were a lot closer than anyone really thought they were going to be. Like opening weekend, South Carolina's reeling, and you go 10 and win 1-0, where I think both teams had like 1 hit or 2. It was like between the 2 of them, I think they had 3 hits going into the extra innings, and I think they won 3-0, and then they won on Sunday. But like, those games were a hell of a lot closer than anyone thought they were going to be going into that weekend. It's just like, I mean, and they won. So like, good on you. That's fine. But to the point that we're trying to make, like, it's a weird feeling season based off of what the talent that they have and what they're doing. Like, if you told me they were 20, if I watched all their games and I didn't know the outcomes, I'd be like, probably 500 team. And they're 23-7, beating the doors off people.
Well, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, it kind of sums up the SEC in a lot of ways. Like, it's just such a gauntlet. And you're going to go through a stretch where your character is going to be tested. At some point, you're going to lose a series that you probably think you should win, or, for Florida, like, you get pounded by Alabama. Like, Arkansas is in that mix right now. It's like, all right, you got swept at home by Florida. Like, what's your bounce back? It doesn't mean that any of these teams are not good. They're all good. I mean, even, I think South Carolina is the only team in the SEC right now that you look at and you're like, yeah, as long as we show up, we're probably pretty good. Like, even Missouri's playing, like, this is a totally different ball club this year. I don't know how many more games they're going to win in the SEC because of how good the conference is. But
you can't just roll it out.
They are not a cakewalk this year. They played some really significantly better baseball. Yeah, but I mean, that conference is crazy. Like, it's to the point in that conference where if you're on the road and you don't get swept, that's not a bad weekend.
Even you and I talked about this, Jonathan. You and I haven't discussed this yet, but I said this to Andy the other day. Like, it's not. You look at last weekend where Tennessee lose 3 walk-off losses at Vandy, in-state rival, on the road, SEC. You get walked off 3 times. It is a wild notion to kind of think this, that those 3 losses don't ding you even remotely bad in the grand scheme of things because of who it is and what and the conference that it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's you very well could have walked out of that series with 3 wins. You don't. You go 0-3, but like, yes, it sucks because you lost and you want to win. But from an overall perspective standpoint, like, it's not the end of the world for Tennessee. Like, yeah, I mean, you go like, yeah, I know they're Vandy's not ranked, but like, let's be honest, they're, on the cusp. Like, you lost 3 walk-off losses on the road, and it doesn't hurt you at all.
The margins in that conference are so absurdly thin.
Yeah, like it's aside from South Carolina, and I think you're right. Missouri is markedly better than they were last year. So kudos to that staff for what they're doing. But like, the other 12 teams in that conference are.
But the thing is with South Carolina is like I get what you're saying, but like, let's not forget, South Carolina could have took 2 of 3 at home against Arkansas.
Yeah,
they threw a ball away in the 9th that tied the game, and they ended up losing in the 10th, and then smoked them on Sunday. So like, yes, they have been a disaster. It has been a total dumpster fire. The hire was a dumpster fire. We all know that. We don't need to dice this up any more than it is. It's been a disaster. But they still almost took 2 from Arkansas at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that sums it up. That like, you go in to play the worst, by far the worst team in the conference, and you still play games that close. Yeah, it's and there'll be some people at the back end of the year when, only 4 SEC teams make it to the College World Series, be like, oh, SEC bias or whatever. It's like, just watch that conference play. Watch them play every single week. Watch Ole Miss and Kentucky. Like, watch Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Like, watch these games being played. It's so thin. Like, it is so thin. And you're a weekend away from feeling awesome about yourself, and you're also a weekend away from going, shit. Like, we got to figure some stuff out. And I think you test your character gets tested big time. Like, Alabama's a great example of, like, they got swept by somebody. I forget who it was. Now there's 6 straight, and they're number 3 in the RPI right now. Like, they're a host right now.
Think about that just real quick, right? And then we can move on. But think about that, just that right there, right? So you go swept on the road at Kentucky. You win 6 straight. You were basically a non-NCAA team, right? Coming out of Kentucky, like I was one of them. I'm like, yeah, they're garbage. Like they'll be towards the bottom. They'll play on Tuesday in the SEC tournament, and that'll be it for them. They're done. To now, you're 3, right, in the RPI. You're an easy host. You're a potential national seed at this point. Just that fast in 14 or 15 days.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like go back to that Kentucky series. They got swept. They lost 7-4, 8-7, and 6-4 to a good Kentucky team. Kentucky's good. They're not like a fluky team anymore. Like I think everybody thinks that Kentucky's like a little bit up and down. Like that's a really good program now. It wasn't just a flash in the pan that like they ran into a good team. Like that's a good program now. And it hasn't always been like that. Yeah, and then Florida, and I mean, shoot, they got to go play an Oklahoma team who just lost, like, dude, the energy and just everything that happened with them against Texas. Like, there's Oklahoma got swept by Texas, and you walk away from that series going, Oklahoma might be better than we thought they were. But either Oklahoma is walking away from this series going, losing 5 of their last 6, or Alabama gets slapped in the face and has to come back and play Arkansas, who could have a rebound weekend. Like, it's just this never-ending test of who are you week in and week out. And yeah, it's a different level of intensity. I know everybody makes fun of it, but like it does mean more. I think it does mean more.
No, you're 100% right. It does mean more. And I think the one thing that we've seen with the success that they've had in the postseason, basically putting 4 teams in Omaha, on average the last, we'll call it decade, right? 8 years. It's basically 4 every year from the SEC. And it's because of that. They're battle tested. They are going to go through stuff that you and other leagues are not going to go through. That's just the reality. There's certain leagues that you can just cakewalk through a weekend and you're going to grab 2 wins. It just doesn't happen that way. We just gave you a perfect example. South Carolina has basically been a doormat this year for that league, losing games, to bad opponents, and still almost took 2 or 3 at home from Arkansas, who I believe it's been 8 straight years that they've had at least 17 or 18 SEC wins.
Yeah.
And that Oklahoma-Texas series, to be fair, like 2 of those games were 1-run games. I think 4-3 and 5-4 in extras.
It's the best series of baseball we've had so far this weekend. We'll see if UCLA USC overdoes it, but that series was ridiculous.
Like Oklahoma could have walked out of there with 2 wins.
Oh yeah, if
they're having a completely different conversation about Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah. If Oklahoma wins 2 of those games, Oklahoma's the top 5 team in the country.
Well, I say that, and like on the same hand, I don't know if you're having a completely different conversation, right? Like I said the same thing about Texas or Tennessee Vandy 5 minutes ago. Like you still know Texas is good. Like you're 2-3 pitches plays away from sweeping Oklahoma if it goes the other way. Like,
Texas is 11-2 against quad 1 teams.
Texas is a unit. Texas and UCLA. Mississippi State's really good. I just think Texas and UCLA are just they're just a unit. Those 2. Like, I don't know.
Is there anybody out there that you're looking at going, nobody's really talking about them in that same category, but like you're looking at it going like they can win this thing? Like you could say, maybe not even say win this thing because that's a different ball of wax, but like looking at him, nobody's super high on him, but it's like that might be an Omaha team.
Georgia.
Huh?
I was just going to say Georgia.
Yeah.
7-2.
And this is like they just, for whatever reason, and I'm not saying this is my opinion, I'm just stating a fact of what I've kind of just looked at and read. They, for some reason, they get dinged so bad for that building that they play in that it like it's just like, well, yeah, like, but they have so many home games, so that's why their record is so gaudy. But like, they're still, I think they're tied for first in the SEC, right?
7-2.
Like, they have arguably the best pitching coach in the country. I mean, like, right? Like, Wes is probably one of the top 5 pitching coaches in the country. Like, that offense is a problem in that building, especially. So, like, and if you just continue to do what you've been doing, you're going to get the road's going to have to go through Athens. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think Georgia. I think they're the one that would be, I would say, is next, in my opinion.
Parents, if you've ever felt overwhelmed trying to navigate youth sports, there's a new resource designed just for you, Team Match. Team Match is an online platform built to streamline how families find the right youth sports teams by location, sport, and skill level, all in one place. It also provides a safe, organized space for kids to share their accomplishments, stats, and highlights while giving coaches and teams a clear way to connect with athletes who are the right fit. Less searching, less stress, more confidence in the process. Youth sports just got simpler for families. This is Team Match. Check it out today at teammatchsports.com. That home field advantage is an interesting one. That, like, if they could sneak in as a national seed, maybe not even sneak in. Like, they're 39 in the RPI right now, but obviously if they continue to do what they're doing in the SEC, to even close to the clip that they're doing it right now, like, they'll be in that top 20, which gets you in the conversation to be a host, at least a host, right? Now they're interesting. I'm looking at it. There's one team that, and Jonathan, you said this to me 2 weeks ago, so I'll give you your props because you deserve them here on this one. But, like, I think Ole Miss is 3-6 in the SEC, and I think they're freaking good. I don't know if they're going to make it to Omaha, but, like, I think they are better than that record, and I think that we'll see if they can, like, tighten up a few screws. But I watch them play, and there's something about them. I like them. Like, they've had a gauntlet in the SEC too. They took one. They had to play at Texas. They lost that series. They ended up winning one game. They lost the series to Kentucky, and then they just lost to Mississippi State. Like, they got to play Florida. They got LSU, and they got Tennessee. Like, I don't know if it gets any better, but I think that that's a good ball club. And LSU's scary right now because, like, you got to think that it's going to click at some point.
They'll figure it out.
But yeah. What
about Nebraska? Give me your thoughts.
I was just going to bring that up because I was going to say I think the top of the Big Ten is the best that it's ever been. I think there's 4 really, really good teams in that conference, and I think Nebraska is the 4th. I think you got Oregon, you got USC, you got UCLA, who I think are all national seed quality teams. But Nebraska is quietly 8-1. And for those of you who haven't followed college baseball for a long time, there's a ton of history in Nebraska baseball.
Yes.
Back when we were playing, when I was in college, they were a College World Series team.
Back in the day.
And
Jabba Chamberlain,
that's where Dave Van Horn was before he went to Nebraska or before he went to Arkansas. There's a lot of history there. And
they're 9-1 in their last 10. Their only loss is a 1-run game on Friday night against Michigan.
Yeah, they're sitting 24 in the RPI.
I think that, like you said, though, Andy, like, the Big Ten has such a, like, class that you're, like, those top 4 and then your drop to 5 is, like, going off a cliff. Like, those 4, I mean, barring a miracle, one of those 4 will be winning the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, one of those 4 are going to win the regular season. 3 of the 4 are probably going to be hosts. We're right there, borderline hosts. Like, they're going to get at least 2 hosts, maybe 3. Like, you're talking about they're in their kind of their own class, and then the rest of the Big Ten's kind of just trying to hold on for dear life, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think that sums up the Big Ten. I think there's a huge separation between the four teams we just talked about and everybody else in that conference. And until proven otherwise, I think it's pretty clear cut. Like Nebraska's they've got some legitimate wins. And they've played a pretty challenging schedule to start this year. Like, yeah, I know UConn and Northeastern and Grand Canyon are all down by their own personal expectations, but they beat them early in the year. They got a win against Florida State. They got a win against Auburn. And I mean, shoot, they just been pounding people for the last month. Since March 3rd, which was the Tuesday after they played Auburn, they've only lost 2 games. They lost game 1 to Michigan in that series 2-1. Actually, that's the only loss they've had. They've only lost 1 game since March 3rd.
Yeah, which is absurd.
Dominated Indiana, beat a good Creighton team at Creighton. Beat Kansas State midweek. Yeah, they beat Michigan 10-0 on Saturday. 10-run ruled them. Pounded Wichita State. Swept Maine. Yeah, I mean that's a good ball club. They'll get tested in 2 weeks. They'll get tested next weekend, not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend. They got to go to Oregon, so that's gonna be a good matchup.
Yeah.
Conversely, UCLA hasn't lost since February 23rd against San Diego State.
Fighting Kevin Vance's. Yeah,
both of their losses this year are by 1 run. They're a handful of pitches away of being 26-0, 28-0. Excuse me.
Yeah. But the funny thing, though, you say that, Keith, but I want to say Mississippi State they have 4 losses, and I think they're all 1-run losses as well.
One of them's to UCLA.
Yes, which they should have won. You guys remember correctly.
I mean, UCLA went into the college baseball series at Amegi Bank Park. They went in and pounded Tennessee, pounded Texas A&M, and beat Mississippi State in extra innings. Like, if that's not a statement weekend, like, I don't know what else is. They beat Tennessee 12-5, and they beat Texas A&M, who's playing really well right now. They're 23-5. They beat them 11-1 in 7 innings. At Globe Life Field, they're like, we'll go to the big league park, and we only want to play 7 today, so we're just going to get this done real quick. And they've got the best college shortstop probably this century on their team. He's that good. Yeah, he's a different level, I think. That kid.
He's probably, from what I read early in the year, he's the best college position player since Bryce Harper.
The crazy thing is that Mr. LeBron in Alabama probably isn't quite at that level, but he's not that far behind him.
He's going to be a top 5 pick. He should be top 6 pick.
Yeah. There's some electric players in college baseball right now. Some of the arms, I mean, if you like velocity and nasty breaking stuff, like go just tune in across the country on Friday night. Go watch a back end of a game. I mean, shoot, I was joking with one of our buddies today. I was watching the back end of the Florida Jacksonville game yesterday. Jacksonville's dude comes in the 9th. He's throwing 94-mile-an-hour freaking bowling balls. Just bowling ball sinkers. And that's what Jacksonville's running out to close out a game midweek against Florida. Like, it's just the talent across the country right now it's exciting, to say the least. It's
Tennessee was rolling out a left-hander on Saturday last week, freshman, who was like 93-95.
Yeah, it's a fun time to be a college baseball fan, and the best part about it is we've got like another 7 weeks before tournament time. We might have to queue up another just roundtable instead of doing the postseason picks or whatever, we might have to stop in here in a couple weeks because I think we got some matchups coming up that are going to set the table for an exciting stretch run.
Go early May.
Yeah.
Might have a special guest on for regional picks.
Yeah. Any closing remarks from you, gentlemen?
I have one, and this is going to be a direct shot at the Big Ten. So we hit on it. You guys both brought it up. This series this weekend with USC and UCLA. Probably the first time the Big Ten is going to have a top 15 matchup in I don't even know how long, right? And 2 of the 3 games are on Big Ten Plus and not on the Big Ten Network or ESPN. Like, can we do a better job, please? Like, just look at the SEC, what they've done. You turn it on Sunday. They got games starting at noon. They go noon 4 and 7 or noon 4 and 8. Like, be better. Just be better. Like, you have a top 15 matchup. They're both right down the street from each other. Put it on the Big Ten Network. But to have 2 of them on, you got Easter Sunday. Put that thing on. Get it on national TV. ESPN should take it. Somebody should take it. But the fact that 2 of those games are only on streaming is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, your point about the Big Ten is well taken. It's also the first time in 20 years that both of these teams have been this good. And it's a legitimate rivalry. Like, it doesn't have the buzz of Auburn and Alabama, but like, look historically, like UCLA and USC that's a rivalry game across all sports, and you've got 2 top 10 teams. And you got an electric offense with UCLA versus the best pitching staff in the country, best player in the country. Yeah, I mean, yeah, huge mistake because it's an easy sell if you make it accessible. That people would tune into it. But I'm not paying for the Big Ten Network to watch that game, so screw you guys.
You live in the great state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth, baby. You're all set. You just right on normal cable.
Very good.
Flow Sports.
Flow, yeah. Thank God it's not on Flow Sports. What a sham. What do you got, Coach?
I think we have phenomenal baseball all weekend. My big one for the weekend, and this is close to home for you and I, is that the Marist Red Foxes,
you son of a bitch,
are off to a pretty good start in the MAC. We'll see how good we are this weekend when we take on Rider. Top 2 teams playing this weekend. But I do think that this weekend there's phenomenal matchups in the SEC and the ACC and all across college baseball. So tune in, watch it. Let's see what we can. Let's see how good we shake out going into Easter. You got there's 6-7 weeks of college baseball that we're kind of at the midpoint here. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone kind of holds up on the back half. I'm glad you guys mentioned BC on the front part of this podcast. I think that I'm excited to see how well they do over the back half of this year because it is I won't say surprising, but where they are right now in the ACC is fun to watch. But hopefully our Red Foxes give a good counts of themselves this weekend, and we find ourselves at the top of the MAC where we as alumni would like to see them.
Yeah, 10-2 matchup. Ryder, fun fact, leads the country in fielding percentage right now, 987. We learned that during our reconnaissance pre-show.
You can pick it, huh?
Yeah, fired up for that. Foxes are playing good on the weekends, which at this point in the year is the most important thing there is. So, yeah, looking forward to that. But, Jonathan, always a pleasure, my friend.
As always.
Thank you, guys.
We'll have you back
me to do this.
I'm sure we'll be exchanging college baseball memes, facts, and outrageous thoughts over the next couple days. But hopefully you'll enjoy watching UCLA, USC on the Big Ten Network that we do not get in Virginia or New York. So kudos to you. Maybe you can FaceTime me in so I can watch.
Zoom you in. We'll get you locked in.
Me, you, and Sammy Keith can watch that game on FaceTime.
That's right.
Get a rot.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you next week. Thank you for listening this week. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. If you want to find out what me and Keith do to help families and players navigate the recruiting process, go ahead and check us out on emdbaseball.com. Take a few minutes to check out our new online academy. I promise you'll get some good information out of that. Thanks again for listening. Check in with you next week.